Here's a story based on your prompt. The forest was ablaze, its towering trees engulfed in a raging inferno. The flames, fueled by dry underbrush and fanned by strong winds, seemed to dance with a malevolent glee. The animals of the forest, terrified by the sudden disaster, scurried about in a frantic bid to escape the inferno. Birds took to the skies, their shrill cries piercing the air as they fled their burning homes. A young fawn, its coat still speckled with white, stumbled through the underbrush, its large brown eyes wide with fear. Its mother, a gentle doe with a coat of reddish brown, nudged it gently, urging it onward. As they ran, the heat from the flames grew more intense, the smoke choking their lungs. The doe's eyes streamed with tears, but she kept her gaze fixed on her fawn, determined to save it from the inferno. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the smoke, a young girl, her face smudged with soot, her eyes shining with determination. She scooped up the fawn in her arms, cradling it as if it were a baby. The doe hesitated for a moment, unsure whether to trust this strange creature, but the girl's gentle touch and soothing words seemed to calm the fawn, and the doe followed her, its heart filled with gratitude. Together, the girl, the doe, and the fawn made their way through the burning forest, the flames roaring around them like a living thing. But they pressed on, driven by a fierce determination to survive. Finally, they emerged into a clearing, the cool, fresh air enveloping them like a balm. The girl set the fawn down, and it wobbled unsteadily on its legs, its eyes still wide with fear. The doe nuzzled its fawn gently, as if to reassure it that all was well, and the girl, her face still smudged with soot, smiled wearily, her eyes shining with a deep sense of satisfaction. For in the midst of that terrible inferno, she had found a new sense of purpose, to protect and preserve the creatures of the forest, and to fight against the destructive forces that threatened their very existence. Here's the continuation of the story. As the girl, the doe, and the fawn caught their breath in the clearing, they heard a faint rustling in the underbrush. Suddenly, a small, furry creature with large, round eyes peeked out from behind a bush. It was a young rabbit, its fur singed and its ears scorched from the fire. The girl's heart went out to the little creature, and she gently scooped it up in her arms. The doe and the fawn watched as the girl cradled the rabbit, speaking softly to calm its fears. As she did, more and more animals began to emerge from the forest, all of them seeking refuge from the inferno. There were birds with scorched feathers, squirrels with singed tails, and even a young fox with a burned paw. The girl welcomed them all, using her jacket to create a makeshift shelter for the animals. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the clearing, the girl realized that she had stumbled upon something much bigger than herself. She had discovered a sense of purpose, a calling to protect and preserve the creatures of the forest. And as she looked around at the animals that had gathered around her, she knew that she was not alone. The doe, the fawn, the rabbit, and all the others had become her allies, her friends, and her family. Together, they would face the challenges that lay ahead, working to rebuild and restore the forest to its former glory. And as they did, the girl knew that she would find a new sense of meaning and purpose in her life, one that would stay with her forever. But little did she know, the journey ahead would be fraught with danger, uncertainty, and difficult choices. The fire may have been extinguished, but the real challenge was only just beginning. As the days passed, the girl, who had come to be known as the Forest Guardian, worked tirelessly to care for the animals that had been displaced by the fire. She built shelters, gathered food, and tended to their wounds. The animals, in turn, grew to trust and rely on her. The doe and her fawn became her constant companions, and the rabbit, whom she had named Thumper, would often sit by her side as she worked. But despite the progress they had made, the Forest Guardian knew that they still had a long way to go. The forest was scarred and barren, and it would take time and effort to restore it to its former glory. One day, as she was out gathering berries for the animals, she stumbled upon a small clearing. In the center of the clearing stood an enormous tree, its trunk twisted and gnarled with age. The Forest Guardian felt drawn to the tree, as if it held some secret or message for her. She approached it slowly, feeling the energy of the forest emanating from it. As she reached out to touch the trunk, a soft voice spoke to her, seemingly from within Forest Guardian, the voice said, I have been waiting for you. The forest is indeed scarred and barren, but it is not beyond repair. I will share with you the secrets of the forest, and together we can restore it to its former glory. The Forest Guardian listened in awe as the tree began to share its secrets with her. She learned about the delicate balance of the ecosystem, the importance of the forest's biodiversity, and the ancient rituals that had once been performed to ensure the forest's prosperity. As she listened, she felt a deep sense of connection to the forest and its inhabitants. She knew that she had been given a great responsibility, and she was determined to do everything in her power to restore the forest and protect its inhabitants. But as she stood there, bathed in the wisdom of the ancient tree, she couldn't shake the feeling that there was still something missing, something that she had yet to discover. Here's the continuation of the story. As the Forest Guardian continued to learn from the ancient tree, she began to notice that the forest was changing. The animals that had been displaced by the fire were beginning to return, and the plants that had been scorched were starting to regrow. But despite the progress they had made, the Forest Guardian couldn't shake the feeling that something was still missing. She felt a sense of restlessness, a sense that there was still something she needed to discover. One day, as she was out exploring the forest, she stumbled upon a hidden glade. In the center of the glade stood an enormous stone statue of a long-forgotten king. The Forest Guardian felt drawn to the statue, as if it held some secret or message for her. She approached it slowly, feeling the energy of the forest emanating from it. As she reached out to touch the statue, the ancient tree spoke to her again. Forest Guardian, the tree said, I have been waiting for you to discover this place. The statue you see before you is that of the ancient king who once ruled over this land. He was a just and fair ruler, loved by his people and the creatures of the forest. The Forest Guardian listened in awe as the tree told her the story of the ancient king. He was a wise and powerful ruler, the tree continued, but he was also a humble and compassionate one. He knew that the forest and its inhabitants were not just his subjects, but his friends and allies. As the Forest Guardian listened to the tree's words, she felt a deep sense of connection to the ancient king and his people. She knew that she had been given a great responsibility to carry on the king's legacy and protect the forest and its inhabitants. But as she stood there,